Welcome back to the NewJerseyDevils.com Draft Preview Show. Chris Westcott, Amanda Stein, and Kevin Weeks joining you here. We're talking about the top 2 prospects in the upcoming 2019 NHL Draft. We started with Capo Caco, the #1 international skater, and now we move to the #1 North American skater, Jack Hughes. Real quick, guys, what separates Jack Hughes from the pack?
Well, do we have time to go through all the records that he's broken in the last year or since he really has been on skates? Yeah. He comes from a hockey pedigree family. We know his brother was drafted and plays for the Vancouver Canucks. Listen, he just excels in any opportunity that's given to him, and that really, sets him apart from the pack.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy, you have to really respect the family too. Leaving the U.S., moving up to Toronto, playing in the GTHL, the best youth hockey league in the world. I'm a proud graduate of that league. More importantly, our many NHLers, both past and present and future, him being one of them. And this is a guy that's so dynamic. He's lightning in a bottle offensively. A lot of people would compare him to a Patrick Kane, Johnny Gaudreau type based on his ability to generate offense and to be able to make plays, the way he sees the game. And what was really impressive to me, and I've had players that just recently played with him that I've spoken to, and Coach Hines, et cetera, but in meeting him and him coming on set at an NHL draft, I love his composure. And I love that kind of attitude. You could see it in his eyes. He's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. Let's roll. Give me the puck. I'm going to make some plays.
Well, I love how at the Combine he said, I want to go first overall.
Yeah.
I have dreamed of going first overall. And we know hockey players.
Sure.
They're humble. They don't necessarily like to talk about themselves. You might know a thing or two about that. But you know what? Yeah. He said, I've dreamt of going first overall.
Of course.
Takes a little guts to, come out to the media and just say that.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what the experts have to say about Jack Hughes.
Held in by Hughes, right side. Hughes a lane, coming in, got the shot, score! Jack Hughes, 5-4, USA!
The thing I've always liked about Jack Hughes is that he makes plays at high speeds, and he does everything with quickness. So even if he doesn't score, he's probably drawing a penalty in the process because guys just can't catch him.
Jack's game on the ice, it's about the vision, the edge work, the skating, and making those around him better. He does all of those things to an elite level.
The speed and quickness in which he can execute plays, arrive on time, and just be in the right place at the right time. He's got that type of ability to make a difference between a team winning and losing.
We know what he's able to do. We know what he brings to the table, both from a market standpoint and on the ice.
I have a saying about Jack. He becomes immediately dangerous when his blades hit the ice.
Well, when I caught up with Sam Cosentino at the Combine, he told a little story. He said when they talked to Jack, he had him ranked 2nd on his list of prospects. And they asked Jack, do you look at the rankings? And Jack said, no, but I saw you had me listed 2nd. So it goes back to what you guys were saying about that calm, cool, collected, almost that swagger that he has, right?
Sounds like he was a little witty, too.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a little wit about him.
Yes.
And you know what? It's true. He's just so cool, calm, and collective, but just has that little bit of attitude that you want to see from a guy like that.
That's what winners have.
Yeah.
That's what winners have. That's one of the ingredients. I told people prior to the Stanley Cup playoffs about Jordan Binnington having that in his eye. The rest is history. I had a chance to meet with him. I had a chance now to meet with Jack Hughes, and I could see it. I could sense that he has that. He's a guy that wants to be a difference maker. He's spoken openly, as you said, about wanting to be #1 overall. He wants to be a member of the New Jersey Devils. He wants to play in the Metro New York market. That says a lot for a young kid of his age that has that level of conviction in his game.
And it shows that he doesn't doubt himself.
Correct.
There's no doubting himself and his abilities. And when you don't have that, problem between the brain where you're not really sure where you sort of fit in, that's a huge part of the element in being a successful hockey player.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that speed and that quickness and his ability to process the game. As soon as he hits the ice, he knows where he's going with the puck, and he's fast enough to execute that. When you think of him moving forward, is he built for where the NHL is going?
No question. I mean, I asked him point blank. I said, so who are you skating with back home in Toronto? He goes, yeah, Connor McDavid. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I know your skating coach. That seems like it's pretty good to me. That's the fastest guy that's ever played the game. That's Usain Bolt from a speed standpoint as it translates to hockey, is Connor McDavid. And the fact that Jack Hughes skates with him, has done drills with him, sees the different ways to develop his game, attack defenses, make plays at speed, as you heard there, but put opposing players under duress. And I look at the Devils team, I think that's one thing that they can continue doing as they get younger, is be faster, be more dynamic. Yes, we know Taylor Hall's a speed merchant, but now if you can complement that with somebody like Jack Hughes, adding more speed to this team, and putting those opposing teams to have to play at a pace that maybe they're not comfortable with, that could be a huge asset.
Absolutely. And when he was at the World Championship, you had Patrick Kane saying, that he was only there for a few days, and he said, he's better at his age than I was. And if that's any indication, he's going to be a remarkable player going forward here. So it's really an exciting time to be able to decide. It's a big decision to make, but for me, I'm thinking that 1-2 punch of a Nico Hischier and a Jack Hughes, that might be hard to turn away from.
Yeah, that definitely could be. And hey, Patrick Kane, I love your point there. In junior with London Knights in the OHL at that time, Patrick Kane had, if I'm not mistaken, 145 points. And we know how dominant Jack Hughes was with the U.S. development program. So that's high praise from a 3-time Stanley Cup champ in Patrick Kane.
Well, we've talked about Capo Caco, we've talked about Jack Hughes, we've talked about how important this draft is. Coming up in our final segment of the show, we actually talk to the general manager of the Devils, Ray Shero, and get his thoughts on what it takes to be a Devil.
Define success for me.
Say in life, it's kind of making a purpose and achieving that, right? Dedicating your life to something, or dedicating time to something, and ending up achieving it, and maybe doing better than that. Me personally, it'd be a Stanley Cup, just because that's something I've dreamed of my whole life. I think that's why every hockey player at this level plays.
What do you know about yourself or about your game that you might not have known if you just stopped playing at the U18s and didn't go to the World Championships?
The easy thing to do for me was to go back home, golf every day, hang out with my buddies until we leave for the combine. That was the easy thing to do. I mean, I just broke Ovechkin's record. I had 20 points in 7 games. I felt like I had more left in the tank. And I did the hard thing, which was go to Men's Worlds, play a third-line center role. And I feel like I did that all for the experience, to play against men and be around men.
Do you have any fear at all of next season, coming into the best league in the world?
No, I don't think there's any fear. I mean, for me, that's something I've dreamed of my whole life. For me, I read and react. I think that when I have time and space, I can either score, I'm a threat to score, or a threat to make a really nice play. It's exciting to me, I think. I think that'd be unbelievable playing in the NHL as an 18-year-old.
Welcome back, everyone, to our NewJerseyDevils.com Draft Preview Show. Chris Westcott, Amanda Stein, Kevin Weeks. We've been talking about the top 2 prospects in the draft. We've been talking about how important this is for the New Jersey Devils franchise. But now let's hear from GM Ray Shero on what it takes to be a Devil.
There's probably 5 things that, teams are, but everybody looks at it a little bit differently probably, and everybody wants competitive players, and certainly skating comes into play, hockey sense or instincts, hockey strength. And when you do that, maybe on your first pick, you're going to have someone that's going to hit on all 4 or 5. But when you get into the second round, you're not going to have guys hitting on 5. They're not. The challenge is, what are you willing to live with? If this player does not make it in the NHL, why will that be?
So now we know what Ray is looking for at the top of the draft and throughout the draft. Kevin, what do you take from that?
The biggest thing, and Ray makes a lot of great points there, in knowing Ray and head coach Hines and this coaching staff, they want guys that are competitors. That's what they want. They want guys that want to compete. That's a big part of it. And you look at the Devils making the playoffs 2 years ago, they had that. It was infectious throughout their lineup. And as they go forward and you're building this team with some young pieces and you want to continue to add those young pieces to an existing really good core, you need guys that want to compete on a nightly basis. You want them to play in the Battle of the Hudson going up against the Rangers. You want them to get up to play against the Flyers down the Turnpike. That's what you need. Compete on pucks, one-on-one battles, your back pressure, penalty kill, block shots. Those are the hallmarks of players and teams that have success. And I'm sure that that's what they're looking for in a lot of these upcoming draftees.
And on top of that, the other thing is just the character of the person.
Mm-hmm.
You know that is ultimately very important to this entire management staff. We've heard it over the last couple of years that Ray has been involved with the Devils. This is something that they're looking for, character players. And I think that sort of plays off of what you were talking about,
Absolutely.
Kevin, in terms of having that ability to compete like that on the ice. You've got to have character guys in your room. And we've seen that in the players that they've brought in over the last couple of years. That's something really important, and that's why the draft combine was so important for this group, to get to know all these players as human beings first.
It's critical. I mean, listen, we're in the people business. Commissioner Bettman says that all the time. Him and I have talked about that. We're in the people business. Are you looking at slap shots? Sure. Are we looking at velocity of wrist shots? Absolutely. You're looking at reach and size and strength and vertical testing at the combine? Sure, of course we are. Those are all measurables, they're quantifiable. But one thing that's quantifiable, as you just alluded to there, and great points by you in the character, is as the season goes on, as you have the downswings and the upswings, and of course, think about envisioning the team playing in the playoffs. That's what you got to envision. And how will this player react in the playoffs? How many injuries are they willing to play through? How many tough situations? If they're a healthy scratch or they are off the first unit power play, are they still team first? And those are the things when you're projecting that team. You're not necessarily looking at them for a January 26th game, but you're definitely thinking about them, as we just got back from Stanley Cup Final, for how they're going to perform for the Devils in a Game 7 with the world watching in a Stanley Cup Final. Man, I'm getting goosebumps.
Well, you actually said it right there, Kevin. You transitioned perfectly, because we have Ray Shero talking about that team-first mentality. Let's take a look.
I think hockey is such a team game. It's a team sport, and you need any of these top players or any of these players that are going to play in the National Hockey League. 90% of the players are going to go through the American Hockey League. And how are they about coaching? How are they about development? How are they about, leaving a legacy when they've left? I think that's really important.
I think it's really interesting, Amanda, something that not a lot of people talk about is how exactly do you determine through this draft process who is a team-first guy?
Well, I've had a lot of experience over the last 2 years with the franchise to sort of pick the brains of, the upper management and just how they go about things. And one of the most important things, I think, is in the combine process. They will bring in a player to talk about another player, understand how their teammates feel about them. And I think that is a real big indicator when you can get that information from someone else. I know that's why Ty Smith was so high on their draft selection last year, was because of what his teammates and what other people were saying about, or other hockey players were saying about him leading into last year's draft.
You're right, and that's a great call on Ty Smith, WHL Defenseman of the Year. I think he could be ready to crack the lineup this season based on his skill, his ability to make plays. And one thing, you can fool different people. You can't really fool the players. It's one thing. You can't fool the players, and you can't fool some of the staff members because they're there every day. And for players, they're very instinctual, really. It's not only about playing and making plays, but it's also, what do you see in the eyes of the guy that you're lined up against? What are you seeing after a tough road game? How's your teammate on the plane? How are they on the bus? How are they when you go into Philadelphia for a matinee game? How are they when the opposing team may have a tougher lineup, a heavier, more physical lineup? Do they shy away? Do they want to compete? You can't fool players. So to your point, I think it's really important when they're able to get that information from a player about another player. That's gold right there.
Well, here's the other thing, is that, listen, we all know it was a really difficult year for the Devils last year. I was in that room every single day for the last 2 years. That was a team that never, ever gave up on each other. And that is a testament to the characters that they've brought into that room.
Yeah,
it all starts with this draft process. You stock that cupboard with the right players, and you can be successful for a very long time. Well, Ray Shero has a big choice at the #1 overall pick. Is it going to be Jack Hughes? Is it going to be Capo Caco? Maybe he'll give us some insight. Let's take a look.
Those players have distinguished themselves. I mean, Jack threw over the course of a few years, I think, and Capo Caco certainly over the course of the last year in particular, especially at the World Juniors, what he's done is his league in Finland and certainly the World Championships. They're difference makers and how they play, and they're just so different. There's no red flags on either player, and the NHL and the Devils and the Rangers would be benefactors. Two great young players coming to the league.
Well, guys, Ray didn't tell us who he's taking.
Shocking.
Shocking. But it's clear from listening to him talk, and we talked a lot more than just those 3 clips we showed you, that they're very confident that whoever they don't pick or whoever they pick, both players are going to be very good for many years in the NHL.
Well, you hear it. There are no red flags. So that almost makes it even harder to make that decision. So you have to look at which player best suits the franchise and what you're trying to do. The worst part of this decision is that whoever you don't pick is going right across the Hudson, but also exciting because it just reignites that rivalry even more. But man, poor Ray, like the first time he gets that 1st overall pick, the 2nd overall pick goes to Philadelphia. This time it goes to to the Rangers. You can't win. I mean, even though you do win, you can't win.
Hey, listen, that's what makes this all the more intriguing. It makes it more intriguing. It makes it more compelling. And we know that we have, you know, fans, of course, internationally around the world, especially Nico being from Switzerland, but you have fans literally all across the world that are engaged, that are watching. This is great for the brand. It's great for the National Hockey League. It's great for the New Jersey Devils. It's great for the Rangers across the Hudson. And really what this does, as you said, is adds a little kerosene oil to that already pretty hot fire between these two teams in the rivalry. And I just think that that allows fans to get even more engaged. It allows them to consume our game more. They want to see the different storylines. Keep in mind, we have a lot of people here in the tri-state area that live in different spots, cheer for different teams. You know, I've talked to Devils fans literally up the street at Biggie's Sports Bar here in Carlstadt, New Jersey. Hey, Weeks, what about the Devils? Hey, Weeks, what do you think about our team? What's happening? I mean, that's the level of interest that you've been able to generate. So I think this only adds and continues to amplify that.
Well, guys, had a lot of fun with you tonight.
It's been awesome. We're done already?
Yeah, we're done already.
That's
And I mean, we could just keep talking about the draft until Friday. But we'll find out Friday, guys, who the Devils are picking first overall. They got 10 picks overall in the draft. It's a really exciting time to be a Devils fan. For Amanda Stein and Kevin Weeks, I'm Chris Westcott. Don't go anywhere. We have a sneak peek of the documentary series Journey to One, which returns this week on NewJerseyDevils.com.
I think hockey is such a team game. For any of these players that are going to play in the National Hockey League, how are they about coaching? How are they about development? How are they about, you know, leaving a legacy when they've left? It's definitely a different feel this year because you can see the talent level that we have that's coming. There's certainly a foundation that has been built here that moving forward I think we feel good about.
Depending on the results, what do you consider a successful lottery?
Winning.